So hi, everyone, and welcome to another KDE Hub webinar. We're thrilled that you're here to join us today for this session. Hello and bonjour, depending on your location, and good morning or good afternoon, again, depending what part of the country you're logging in from. My name is Alice Schmidt-Hanbidge. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm one of two scientific co-directors of the KDE Hub, along with my colleague, Dr. Colleen McMillan. Wave and say hello, Colleen. There she is. And Colleen will offer closing remarks at the end of our webinar. So before we begin our webinar topic for today, I've got 3 announcements to share with you. So one is that this webinar is being recorded, and we'll follow up with a summary and slides from today's event. Second announcement is we'll have simultaneous French interpretation for the presentation. And then Eric Davernat, one of our hub colleagues, will offer French support in the breakout room. So please let us know in the chat if you would like to be in a French breakout room. And then announcement number 3. So throughout our session, we'll encourage you to share any questions or comments. You can add them in the chat. We'll also have time for the question and answer session after the presentation at the end of or close to the end of the webinar. So just a brief description about our webinar topic today, and we're offering the second part of our webinar series on intergenerational partnerships. Intergenerational partnerships can be very meaningful and life-changing, but they're also really complex, as we know. In our first webinar, we described what makes intergenerational partnerships successful, and to follow up on today's webinar, we're driving into strategies that establish trust, they enhance collaboration among adults and youth, and also to help create sustainable partnerships that strive towards long-standing community impact. So our guest presenters for today's webinar are our friends from the Students' Commission of Canada. We're happy to share the space with you again today. And for those of you who are not familiar with SCC, they are an organization. They're dedicated to empowering and amplifying youth voices across Canada. Their work emphasizes engaging young people in meaningful ways, helping them to develop leadership skills and to connect with communities. And to begin our presentation, SCC will offer a land acknowledgement that will help ground us in our shared spaces and commitments. So let's get started, and I'll pass the microphone over to Matt, Lauren, Kadane, and Kona. Welcome, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Alice, for that introduction. But yeah, welcome to the webinar. And as Alice said, I'll be just doing a land acknowledgement before we get started. So I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge the land that I'm on currently. I am in Guelph, Ontario, which is traditionally the lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit, which is part of just like the larger Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Wendat territories. And this land and all of Turtle Island has been home to Indigenous folks for thousands of years, and their relationships with it still continue to this day. Yeah, since we're meeting online, I invite you all to just take a second to think about the land that you're on. One of my colleagues will post a really helpful tool in the chat, actually, just to help you out. Yeah, and just think about who's cared for it, how it's changed over time, and then also what responsibilities we all might have to the places that we call home. And yeah, so as we talk about intergenerational partnerships today, I think there's a lot that we can learn from different Indigenous teachings and communities about relationships, about community, and then especially just passing knowledge between generations. So yeah, I just want to bring that spirit into the conversation today, and also like keep it in our minds moving forward. But yeah, so thanks everybody. I want to actually pass the mic to Kona just to introduce himself super quick.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Lauren. So my name's Kona. I'm one of the youth, and I partake in some of the activities with the SCC. I actually just recently started, I guess almost a year ago now, My pronouns are he, him. I'm from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. And yeah, I think that's all I have.
Yeah, thanks, Kona. And I'll just introduce myself quickly. Lauren, I use they and she pronouns. I'm a coordinator with the Students Commission. And yeah, I'm super excited to be here today. Matt?
Thanks, Lauren. It is such a joy. Anytime that we get to be in a KDE Hub space, I always end up learning so much, and I'm excited to learn with you today. My name is Matt. I use he, him pronouns. I'm a researcher here with the Students Commission of Canada and the Center of Excellence for Youth Engagement. And I'll pass the mic over to my colleague, Kadane.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kadane, also from the Students Commission of Canada. I am located in Saskatoon, same as Kona, so Treaty 6 territories and homeland of the Métis. I'm also a network coordinator with the Students Commission of Canada and have been involved for a long time. I got involved as a young person and then over the years went on to do my schooling in different things and have come back in a different capacity. But yeah. And just to add to the introduction, I will say that we are an intergenerational in our approach, and a lot of our focus uses youth adults partnerships in collaboration with other agencies and organizations that serve youth across Canada. So all to do the work to help make meaningful change and amplify the voice of young people.
Thanks, Kadane. And at the Students Commission of Canada, intergenerational partnership is one of the, and you cannot tell Sharif, our CEO, that I've said this, it's one of our secret ingredients. We bake it into every program. And in fact, we were tallying the other week, I think we have 5 generations of within our staff, within our small staff scattered throughout Turtle Island. And if in case you missed our starting block, our last webinar, we talked about some of the key layers behind intergenerational partnerships. We went into qualities of adult allies that support partnership. We talked a little bit about shared values as a container for relationships within that partnership. And we talked about what it's like to move throughout the stream from beginning with issues that young people are dealing with in their daily life and building capacity so that young people can address issues such as the opioid crises at the local, provincial, national, or global contexts. So that's where we're coming from. That is recorded. You can go back and check that out in case you missed it. And to bring us a little bit into today, this workshop, or webinar, it's going to feel a bit more like a workshop. We've titled Trust the Process or Trusting the Process. And this mantra, these 3 words, trust the process, are anchoring advice that we give every facilitator, every adult ally, every community partner when they embark into an intergenerational partnership or a program that's tackling a large issue for young people. And we say that that may be obvious or maybe a little bit mysterious phrase because the intergenerational partnership work can get really messy. It can be filled with a lot of unknowns. And especially from the young person side of things can come up in young people's lives that feel like they slow down the process. Young people are really busy. Young people is sometimes like herding cats. Young people have big crises in their lives that come up while you're working with them. And these speed bumps, if you will, can feel like they're dragging on an overarching mission or purpose to accomplish a task or accomplish your program in the community or in the province at large, but actually leaning into relationship and leaning into partnership with young people and learning to trust some key processes that can deepen and strengthen intergenerational partnership, that is such a key for moving the needle forward in how we work with young people and how we open doors to collaboration. And so for this particular webinar, we're going to be diving into the praxis, the how, and you're going to have an opportunity here in a moment to choose your own adventure into a particular process of intergenerational partnership. And we're going to go into that a little bit in a moment. Before we get there, I want us to lay some more groundwork and a foundation by hearing more from our very brave colleague, Kona, who's joined us today. And Lauren's going to set the table a little bit to what kind of work Lauren, Cadane, and Kona have been working on.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. So Cadane and I facilitate a program called Over the Influence at the Students' Commission. And I guess the goal of that project is to build out a group of youth influencers, we call them, to like start looking at the opioid crisis from a youth-centered lens. So yeah, some of the stuff that we have talked about are like basic, like what are opioids, what is naloxone, what does an accidental poisoning look like, but also the youth, like one of which being Kona, have worked really hard to start like thinking about more upstream initiatives as well, and I've spoken to folks in like the policy sector, other adults in different programming spaces. So it's just been really awesome to work with Kona and all of the other youth. And we thought it would be a cool experience to bring him here today. Yeah, and I'll pass it to Kona to kind of, I don't know, share his thoughts on intergenerational partnerships and his experiences a bit.
Yeah, thanks, Lauren. So yeah, I was invited to this meeting by Lauren. And to be honest with you, I didn't have quite a grasp on intergenerational partnerships as I do but once Lauren invited me and did some research. So it's been like a learning experience for me on this topic too, but I'm really happy to be here. With the OTI program, we've really like learned a lot of things with the knowledge around like Lauren mentioned, the opioid crisis, but not only that, like what safe substance use, different, sorry, my mind's blanking here. Lauren, I don't know if you want to pitch in a bit.
No, it's okay. Yeah, we've worked a lot on like harm reduction and trauma informed like views of the opioid crisis and just substance use in general.
Yeah, yeah, and then now with the intergenerational partnerships, it's been like, I don't know, for me it's been a learning process, like I said, but it's something that I didn't quite know a lot about, but I'm happy I do now, and I'm starting to connect the dots in my life, like wow, the different impacts it had on me. So the OTI program has helped me a lot in expanding my knowledge on the opioid crisis and what's happening on the streets, like here in my own community or around the nation, right? So there's things that I haven't thought about that the SCC like really helps open your mind, and yeah, it's very expanding, and I really think it helps make a well-rounded perspective and a well-rounded youth. So yeah.
Maybe Kona, you could share, like I know you just mentioned you've kind of started pinpointing where else in your life there are other intergenerational partnerships and relationships and connections. If you want to touch a little bit on what those have been or how they've created to your engagement and participation in different things.
Yeah, for sure. So one of the programs outside of SCC I was a part of for a long time was the cadet program. And that was a really good program for me, as I felt like it really gave you courage, and you felt like it was a family away from a family almost. But it was a partnership, so like we'd have mentors come in, and there's people there that help build, and their motto is citizenship. And so building like a good well-rounded person, same idea as SCC, done in a different way, in different context. But they really help build you up, and make you help form that well-rounded perspective, I guess. So for me, one of the mentors there, his name was Mr. Ball. He would, he'd help guide us in different things. So, my mind would wander different places. I think like, I don't know, like maybe in career and life, like what I'd want to do in life, and they help guide you and look at your different options. And like vice versa. So like reverse mentoring. So like bringing in like me, like I could like help mentor with like things like modern pulp culture, things like that, right? So I feel like it goes both ways. That sounds a bit silly, but and like those partnerships I feel like last really for a long time, like and it's not just that one, right? So like within the cadet program there was other partnerships I made, and even outside, like Cadene's one of them with the Pathways program. Yeah, so different things. And I really feel like it was a great learning opportunity for me. Yeah, I'm trying to gather my thoughts here. I'll get back to you.
No, that's great, Kona. And I will like, you mentioned this like just now, but you also mentioned it yesterday when we were chatting about, oh, I forget what quote you said, but it was something about like you show them where to look, but not how to.
Yes. So a quote I was talking to Lauren about the other day that I really liked was one needs to adapt, or sorry, my favorite one was, I'll say it anyways, one needs to adapt to the new while retaining the goodness of the old. But the one Lauren is referencing, I believe, is sorry. The best teachers are those who show you where to look, but don't tell you what to see. I think that's the one you're referencing.
Yeah, that is the one I was referencing. And I just found it interesting you talking about like your experience with cadets and having your mentor where like it's kind of like maybe he's not giving you all the answers and stuff, but he's helping you kind of think through it and like figuring out what's best for you, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And I think something else I saw about Cadane, that it was something I really liked when I was looking up intergenerational partnerships, was the 4 R's. So respect, responsibility, reciprocity, sorry, I can say reciprocity and resiliency. So I'm a little nervous, you guys can tell. So yeah.
Oh, you're doing great, Kona. It's intimidating being in a Zoom with a bunch of adult oldies.
Yeah, boomers or millennials.
Uh, yeah, Kona and I were having a laugh the other day because I was like, well, technically, Kona, we have an intergenerational partnership. I am at the cusp of the like just the tail end of Gen Z and millennial, but Kona, you're fully Gen
Yeah.
Z. Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think I was told once I was an honorary boomer because I was an old soul, but I don't know if that's a good thing. So
Mona, I think you're doing really well. If that helps you feel supported and encouraged, you're doing amazing. You're speaking from your heart, from your own truth. And I think it's wonderful to hear your perspective. So thank you. Take a deep breath and just keep going, hon.
thanks.
You're most welcome.
So yeah, so when I was looking into intergenerational partnerships, another aspect that I was looking at was the knowledge exchange that there is between the youth and the mentor. So there is 5 points that really came up. So one, which was knowledge exchange; two, mentorship and reverse mentorship, which I briefly touched on; and then three, the bridging the generational gaps. Fourth one was community and social impact, and then the fifth one was workplace and business benefits. And this one I thought is kind of cool actually. So I didn't think of it, but if there's a young person that's hired, let's I don't know, in a place like the SCC, and they come in, they're coming in with maybe more and not more energy, but a different energy and new perspectives on things, and getting like different ideas on how to do things per se. So anyways, I thought there's a lot of ways that intergenerational partnerships play in your life that I didn't really think about, but if you think about it, that it's an everyday thing. So yeah.
Kona, that was so awesome. I didn't want to preface this, but I knew that Kona would secretly be the highlight of this webinar. I just didn't want to put the pressure on Kona, But I don't know if you saw, Kona, there was lots of reactions of clapping, hearts while you were speaking, as well as the chat lighting up with support. And I think it's really important in intergenerational partnerships to continually seek to center young people in that. And we tried to emulate that here today. And as you can see, like, the texture of this call changed as soon as Kona started to talk. And even with like Lauren Cadane and I, like, it went from like formal presenters to a different type of dialogue where all of a sudden we're laughing a little bit, or all of a sudden we're able to move off the agenda into somewhere unexpected but really, really good. And so this was such a wonderful pause and label witness moment that you've opened the door to, Kona. So thank you so much for sharing your perspective. Um, we're going to hear more from Kona, or you're going to have the option to hear more from Kona uh, later on in this webinar. So to give us a little bit of choice in how we trust the process, how we build intergenerational partnership, we wanted to tease out 3 areas of partnership with young people that seem really, really vital. And there are some tactile tools and questions and conversational openers that link to the praxis of these 3 things. So what we're about to embark on for the next 30 to 35 minutes or so is we're going to give you the opportunity to join a breakout room. There are going to be 3 breakout rooms. As you can see on the screen, there in the little boxes in the middle are the names of the breakout room. So you can choose to go to a room that's all about how to establish trust. On day 1, with young people and adults in the room, how do you do that? I'll be in that room, shamelessly. You can also choose how to enhance collaboration working with young people. There's power dynamics at play. There's messy relationships at play. How do you enhance the connectedness of people in the room to work collaboratively? How do you make decisions together? Kadane's going to be in that room, so you could, yes, Kadane, love the energy. You can choose that room if you'd like. And finally, we have longstanding community impact. So how do you move from gathering passionate young people or passionate people in the community together to have a long-standing impact with your project? Lauren and Kona are going to be there. So I have a feeling that, like, I don't know, there's probably going to be a skew here for the breakout rooms, um, but we are ready to work with a small group, to work with a large group. So when Dan opens the breakout rooms here in a second, you will want to have to weigh the choices of which you'd like to be in, and you'll probably be locked into that room for the full time, just FYI. One final piece we're going to give you just before we give you the choose your own adventure into your breakout room is we developed a scenario. Scenario work is at the heart of great facilitation. Oh, amazing. Thank you, Lauren. So we created this little scenario. We're going to read this scenario, and this scenario might be the backdrop of your discussions. So maybe you don't have a lot of exposure working with young people, or maybe you have a whole heap load of experience working with young people. Um, each room is going to touch on aspects of this scenario. And when we come back after the breakout rooms, we're going to be pulling tools and key insights from each breakout room, kind of around this scenario or what this scenario speaks to. So this scenario is kind of the unifier. And it's also like the FOMO insurance. So in case you missed out on, you can't be in 3 places at once, we're going to be creating a space at the end that ties the key insights together. So I think, Kadane, can you read this scenario for us? It's also in the chat.
And yep, so your community has issued a news release declaring a state of emergency due to a significant rise in opioid-related accidental poisonings. This surge disproportionately involves young people in the community. You are part of a newly created community task force composed of community partners, stakeholders, and decision makers, as well as youth and youth program leads. The task force's mission is to address the immediate health concerns of the community and to investigate the root cause of the spike in cases over recent years. During this discussion, youth participants have expressed feeling unsupported and disconnected from available resources and services.
Thank you, Kadane. That was great. So this is based on real life problems. We tried not to provide like a case study. We wanted it to have some on-ramps of relatability for folks, whether it's bringing adults and youth together, whether it's the opioid crises, whether it's tensions in groups. So we're going to play with the scenario in our breakout rooms. I'm now going to ask Dan to open the breakout rooms. Oh, we're back to recording. Amazing. And we're back. Look at my podcast voice on. Okay, so, oh wow, I'm really big on the screen. You just came from a breakout room where you dialed into a particular process of creating and sustaining meaningful intergenerational partnerships. And we would love to use some of our final time together to hear what you learned, hear what you took away. And we've got a Menti on the screen right now, which is a virtual surveying tool. And what we'd love for you to do is to join this Menti, and there are instructions at the top. Go to menti.com on your phone or your device and use the code 11434058 to hop into this Menti and share with us a takeaway from your breakout room. Your response is going to show up on the screen. It's going to be anonymized. And if you're thinking, this is a lot of work, then you can post your takeaway in the chat. That's also a valid place to share your takeaways. But we'd love to kind of just begin this wrap up with what stuck out to you? What are you going to take away from your breakout room conversations?
Also, feel free to come off mute and share if that's more accessible to you.
And part of trusting the process is also trusting silence. Just wanted to name that.
It's in our 4 pillars. We listen to silence. It means something, yeah.
These are great. Meet youth where they're at to connect and engage. Learn the language of the young people. Listen, icebreakers.
We were talking about evolution, hence the rock, paper, scissors, chicken.
Practical decision-making exercises. Great. How to create safety. Awesome. Creating and facilitating spaces for sharing. What it means to be part of the circle.
These are great. I think there's some from every room.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
I had to guess.
Yeah, and maybe we can also hear from some of the note takers in the room or participants if you'd like to share. But I think we're interested in hearing, building on the takeaways from your breakout room. We kind of have two areas of interest in both kind of figuring out what sticks from this type of work, this type of webinar, and also yeah, how we're going to move forward from here in our own intergenerational partnerships. So yeah, I might just ask, and maybe we'll keep the Menti up just for people to continue to. I keep seeing a response come up every couple of seconds, which is great. So you can continue to respond there, but maybe the note takers in the room or other participants can answer the question in the chat, which is what's going to be most useful for you in your work based on what was um, discussed in your breakout rooms. Ooh, here we go. People are putting in the chat. This is great. I think the collaboration strategies with youth, Vista 5, the dot thing. I love that. You had to be in the enhancing collaboration to get the dot thing. How important space is when working, sharing with youth. This is awesome. Guiding list of what we do for our greatest success. Amazing. And we're also curious, like ooh, oh wow, I want to know more about creating a legacy. That sounds really good. Amanda, do you care to expound on that? I'm so curious. Feel free to say no.
I was just listening to the conversations within our group. We had the long-standing community impact, and I think it's great when you talk about downstream initiatives, building out those downstream initiatives. Because we always, when we think about programs, we always think about the big programs, the end results. But when you step back and you look at the immediate attention to what needs to be done, that is where you draw your biggest success, because those are the things that you're going to get your biggest wins right away. So I think that's what sets you up for long-term success, to go to your funders to get funding, because you show evidence, you have solidified evidence of how impactful your programs are. And I'm talking about the downstream initiatives that you can start to now build out that long-term plan. And I think that's the legacy you want to create and you want to leave. That's the impact we're going for. It's not just focusing on the big things right off the bat. It's starting from the small steps, the small grade, whether it's going out, talking to your communities, to school zones, having youth more engaged, having those different generations coming in and offering their advice, whatever that piece that they can bring into it. That's what you want to start to build out and leave your legacy.
Thank you so much, Amanda. It's always it can always feel a little bit awkward to get called out in a big Zoom room. So thank you for showing up to that invitation. Oh, Kona, yes. Louisa looks like Louisa put a question in the chat, which is a really great question. What qualifications should staff organization have to ensure youth stay safe in these sharing environments? That's a great question. Lauren Cadane, do you want to maybe reflect on like our conference work and OTI?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like unofficial like things you can do, like not related to like licenses and everything. I think a big thing that we try and do at our youth conferences, which like most of the time tackle like pretty heavy topics, is create community guidelines within your group. Just to get everyone on the same page, and then it's something that you can refer back to, like if you need to call somebody in or like, you know, I don't know, look at someone's behavior or something. And I usually run the substance misuse and addiction theme team, and something that I like to do just to like start like with that safer space is use the snowball activity, which is when everyone in the group gets a piece of scrap paper. And I ask the question, like, what do you need from this space to feel like good this week? Because it's a week conference. And everyone in the room writes something down. If you don't want to write something down related to like the prompt, you can draw a picture or just write like a nice affirmation. You have a little snowball fight. Everyone goes and picks up a piece of paper, and then you read it in a circle. So everyone's reading like a random person's snowball, and it's all anonymous. You can let the youth like put their name on it if they'd like to, but it's not a necessity. And then just like when people are sharing back like what they need from a space, I always just like to validate each thing and like kind of give a bit more explanation to, like, for example, if someone says, "Oh, I need to fidget," then like I can kind of just give a little bit like a piece of education around that piece, being like, sometimes people are paying attention with like they're listening to you, but they may not be looking at you, and that's totally okay. We're all coming from different places and spaces that affect our experience and stuff. So just giving a bit of like education around it. Okay, yeah, that's kind of what I thought. Maybe Kadane could take that one because
Sure. I think depending on the agency, organization, and things like that, there is like internal things organizationally you can do to really be truly trauma informed. It's like a very organizational from top down process that takes a lot. I think there's things you can do like in the term of like prevention and harm reduction to go towards being trauma informed and having safer spaces. There's a lot of trainings that are available and applicable. If you're working with young people, maybe there's specific things like you want them to be trained in child and youth care or youth care work and things like that. And then on an organizational level, having policies in place, like what does it look like if you need to do duty to report or things like that. Each of those things can be, but there's things like assist that we've all done, even though everyone in the organization might not be working frontline. We've all taken assist training, whether that's to be able to either support another staff who's working with youth directly or the one-off chance that you end up at the conference. We've done some things around like cultural competency and like cultural humility trainings. We've done trainings on what else? Conflict resolution. So things that are like, I think twofold, because on a staff level, there are things that are important. And then like staff to youth, and then like in the community, they're things that are like relevant, they're common, and they translate into different spaces. And so always being aware, like we have our policies and things in place, maybe going into another space, being aware what those are. And if there was a disclosure, would it still be me that did the duty to report, or is there someone in that agency? So those kinds of things. But I think those like are the big areas that whenever we do professional development and things like that, we go to that. We're lucky. We have a very diverse mix of backgrounds, like in regards to like child and youth care, psychology, and different things like that in our team. And so it works well with the work that we're doing with adults and young people, but you could be very specific about it. We did some surveys for justice, the Ministry of Justice in Ontario, and that was one thing that young people identified. They said they're in youth facilities, in custody, locked youth facilities, and they said some of these people here should have to take a training on how to work with youth, which in theory they have taken to be able to get those jobs. But even sometimes with the training, there's lots of gaps and challenges. So also on top of all of that, having a way to measure and monitor and make sure with all these trainings, are these expectations and standards being met, and having a way to ensure that those things are happening. So just a few quick suggestions.
That was very thorough. Thank you, Kadane. Yeah, and I think there's lots of trainings that we could recommend from that. We want to carve out time at the end here for KDE to wrap us up in a good way. I know that there is going to be a very brief survey following the closing of this Zoom call. Please, please, please take 42 seconds to fill out that survey. We read everything that you write, and we really appreciate learning how we like what's really sticking with you and what's something that is still a burning question. So, oh, Kona has something to say.
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to end it off quickly. I think a lot of this we talked about how making connections and talking to other people, no matter what generation they are, you can take a second and learn from them. And a quote that I really like, I share with Lauren was, I've often thought that one of life's greatest blessings is to make a meaningful connection with another person. Something I like to use for myself when I'm trying to listen is wait and waste, so two acronyms. Wait, why am I talking? Or sorry, why am I talking? And waste, why am I still talking? Right. So always listening and not talking, and you can learn a lot from different people, no matter what age. Right. So anyways, I just wanted to thank everyone too for having me here. It was a good experience, and I've learned a lot too. So thank you.
Okay, well, that's my cue to wrap up now. Yeah, so this brings like what was a fabulous webinar to a closing, and our sincere thanks to our esteemed guests and partners, and I'm going to say friends, Matt and Kadane and Lauren and Kona. You get your own special shout out. Thank you for being with us. And you brought that voice of youth that we so value, and your own words of wisdom. Thank you for spending the time, part of your afternoon, with us. The SCC group, they always bring such a depth of experience and expertise to these webinars, and your group leaves us feeling always like energized and inspired. So thank you very much. And thanks to everybody else who was able to join us this afternoon. We value your presence. So just two other things. We invite you to make room in your calendar on March the 27th from 1 to 2:30, and that is our next webinar. And during that time, we're going to be looking at the topic of lifestyle drift and the importance of staying upstream. So you will be getting some more news about that webinar in February. Webinars in March, but the information will be coming in February. And you can also view all of the different hub activities on X or LinkedIn, our website, of course, our newsletter, or just reach out to us. We're happy to share the information with you. And looping back to Matt, we too love feedback. You know that we value your thoughts and your comments. So at the close of this webinar, 3 questions will be launched for your comments. And if you could take a few seconds and fill those out, we too would appreciate it. So on that note, our collective thanks from the KDE Hub. Please enjoy the rest of your afternoon and stay warm. And we'll see you at our next getting together. Bye for now.